I have Alison O'Donnell, Joe Olson and Diane Potter. And they are from the Pro-Ability Network within the Royal Bournemouth Hospital. Good afternoon, ladies.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Thank you, first of all, for giving up your time this afternoon to come into the studio and talk to us about what this is. And I'm really interested to know, can you just, first of all, explain your positions within the hospital sort of setup, what you do?
So I'm the Chief Medical Officer for UHD, and I'm the executive sponsor of the network, which is a real privilege for me.
Absolutely. And yourself?
So I'm Diane Potter. I'm a clinical risk advisor in quality and risk team within the hospital, and I'm the network lead for Pro-Ability.
Right, okay. And yourself?
I'm Jo. I work in IT projects, and I work for the PA2 in IT, and I'm a deputy lead in Pro-Ability as well. So
absolutely wonderful.
Sort lots of meetings out.
So it's been a busy time for everybody in the hospital, as we know, with what is going on around us at the moment. And but there is a necessity, obviously, for support networks within the hospital. And this Pro-Ability network is based towards the staff, yeah? Or is it patients as well?
Yes, so it's a staff network, one of the 5 staff networks that we have, and it's to support our staff that are living and working with disabilities and long-term health conditions.
Right.
So really important during last year and lockdown. So we provided a lot of virtual support.
And what is the percentage
staff
of people who have a disability or whatever and that work within the hospital?
Well, one of our big challenges, Trevor, is that when we look at how many people have declared to the organisation that they've got a disability, it's only about just under 4%.
Right.
But if we look at the staff survey, about 18% of people say that they're living with a disability or a long-term condition. So there's something about how we make it safe for people to let us know that they've got challenges that they're living with.
Because they're not always visible, are they?
No, a lot of invisible disability, and that's really challenging for people. But the big focus is about how we help people to do what they can do, not to focus on what they can't do.
Right.
That's a big message.
Yeah, absolutely. And how long has this network been going? How long has it been in existence as such?
It's just over 2 years. So we launched at the end of 2019.
And are you funded by the hospital, or is it totally and utterly voluntary?
Yeah, we do it voluntarily,
right,
in addition to our day jobs.
Okay. So that's quite an amazing task, actually, isn't it? Because we know the hospital is mega busy at the moment as well, but it must be quite reassuring for the people who use your network to know that you're there.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, what we try to do is create a safe culture for our staff so that they can share things with us,
right,
and bring their whole selves to work, knowing that they're going to be supported. But I mean, it's been a challenge in the last year because we've all been working virtually ourselves. We've all been working from home because all of us are either living with a disability or a long-term health challenge.
Right.
So most of the Pro-Ability network were working from home last year. So everything we've done, including setting up our events like Purple Light Up, it's all been done virtually. So we're really proud of that, and that's what we're trying to demonstrate to staff. We do present a safe culture, and trying to get staff to declare their disability so that we can support them more.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because
this is HRB.
We are a completely separate entity to the hospital here. Okay, but we believe we provide a service which is completely different to anybody else's because we're here to entertain and keep people, try and keep people happy. And we don't have any funding as such. We don't get funding from the NHS or from the government or whatever. So yes, we are the people that we throw ourselves off to water towers and things like that, to raise money. How do you raise your funds? How do you fund? Because there must be costs involved.
Well, a lot of this is about admin and bringing people together and people being willing just to go the extra mile. But I think it's really important that the hospital has a duty to listen to what the staff networks recommend, because it's the expert voice in lots of ways of our different staff groups, and to understand what they need. So I think we hear the messages in slightly different ways. One of the ones that I think there was a lot of frustration about is that for our staff who were hearing impaired over COVID and they were reliant on lip reading, actually it became incredibly difficult for those staff to actually be at work and be functioning, because they couldn't understand people who were talking, and also members of the public. So there were little things like producing badges from charitable funds to tell people that they needed to make allowances for the fact that they would lip read. And actually our procurement department really were trying very hard to find a supply of masks that would work for people, and that was very frustrating. It took a long time, and I don't think we really landed it in the way that we wanted to. But there are ways that we can access the things that the network say that they need, but it's none of these things are easy, and it does depend on a lot of goodwill. Absolutely.
And do you find you get the goodwill from the top level in the hospital? I mean, do you get really good support from the chairman downwards?
Absolutely, and of course Alison is the Chief Medical Officer, and being our exec sponsor is hugely supportive. But yeah, we have support from Chief Executive down.
That's really good. So I'm looking on your website here, and I can see that you've got. I've lost my pace now. There we are. You don't just deal with disabilities as such. How much of this is supporting people with mental health problems? Is that part of it?
That comes under the invisible illnesses and visible disabilities. So,
big problem these days.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, I think with me, I was in denial because I didn't think I had an illness.
Right.
And there's a lot of fatigue going on with illness, and I think you need to cover that too. And there's a spoon theory. And I've said to a lot of people about the spoon theory, and they go, "What is the spoon theory?" And I said it was something. It was on a website. But you don't look sick. And a lot of people say, "But you don't look disabled," and that's quite a big thing to say because people don't like being told that. The stigma of that. We're not disabled. You're in denial. And there's fatigue. And the spoon theory is about a girl at college explaining one day to her friend about how to explain her illness to her friend, and she wasn't getting it, and she's going, "Look, come on, I'll give you 12 spoons." And she's going, "Okay, you've got 12 spoons, that's your energy for the day." And the guy said, "Okay, yeah, just go to work. One spoon is for doing this, that and that." She said, "No, one spoon is for getting out of bed. The next spoon is for getting when you're ill. If you've had bad sleep, you can't, that's another spoon." So it's just explaining that fatigue through the spoon theory. That's really worth looking up on the internet. But you don't look sick.com. It explains the fatigue.
Yeah, because a lot of people feel when I think they're working in a health environment, that it doesn't matter how they're feeling, they've got to get on and do the job. And the problem is when that shift comes to an end and they go woof, they sit down, that's when it can hit. And is that where you guys come in as support? How can you identify that? That's the thing that I struggle to get my head round. How you can identify that somebody is struggling when they cover it up.
So I think there's lots of things which actually sit alongside the Pro-Ability Network, where this, as I said, this is peer support. It's informal support. It's a safe place for people. It's not people who are in their line management. It's not people who are part of the organisation in a way that might make people worried. But we have other things out in the organisation like mental health first aiders. We've got a really good occupational health department. We've got a really good health and wellbeing offer on the website with really good resources, and if people haven't had a look at that, I'd really encourage them to do that. There's lots of resource there. But I think what Jo says is really important, because there's that thing about you feel that you ought to be strong and you ought to just be able to carry on, and you don't want a label, and for myself, and I think it's actually quite important as somebody who's quite senior in the organisation, I found myself with a long-term health condition in the last year. It's a physical health condition, but actually it has significantly impacted in all parts of my life. And when I came to fill in the staff survey this year, it was quite a big thing for me, because I had to tick the box that said I had a long-term health condition. And I sat there for about good 2 or 3 minutes with my mouse hovering over that little box, because actually it was almost that thing of accepting that was the case and ticking the box on the form. And I think, you know, if it's like that for me, it's going to be like that for hundreds potentially of staff within our organisation. And we know that 18% tick that little box. That's nearly 2,000 people.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's nearly 2,000 people in this organisation are living with a disability or a long-term health condition.
And that's over Poole Hospital, Bournemouth Hospital, over the University Trust.
Yeah, absolutely. And
that's an awful lot of people, isn't it?
It is. But only a handful of them, only sort of about 300-400 of them, are actually putting their hand up and saying, I've got a disability. So that, you know, there's a big disconnect there about people feeling that they can actually say about this. And you know, it's that old adage that if we don't know about it, we can't help.
Yeah.
And so what we don't want is people suffering or struggling in silence, when actually there might be things that we could do to help them. Whether that's helping them with how they work, whether that's helping to adapt the area that they're working in. Now that doesn't necessarily come through the network, but the network is a really good resource to signpost people and to give them the courage to say, but that's what we should ask for, and this is how we can help you ask for it.
Okay, so you, I mean, the three of you basically run this organisation in such. How many other people have you got in the background who, okay, I come to you and I say I'm really struggling and I've got this problem, whatever. How do you take that problem and sort it? So is there a group of people you've got that you say, we're going to have a chat with this guy, we're going to have a chat with this lady or whatever, or explain to me how it's done?
Yeah, so we've got about 10-12 core members of the network across the three sites, so Bournemouth, Poole and Christchurch. And we have our own email address, so people can email us, and that's all on the website or on our web pages. So people can email us, and then it tends to be the most appropriate person. So if we know that somebody, for example, has cancer and is working and living with cancer, they would redirect that person to somebody within our network who maybe has had a similar situation. So for support, I mean, we all tend to work together, but so there are about 12 core members, and as Alison said, you know, we would direct people to occupational health or mental health first aiders, so we're sort of like a pivot that would direct people to where they need to be to give them the best support for themselves.
Understood, okay. There we are then, back with Alison, Joe and Diane talking about the Probability Network. Now, we played a track there which was called Purple Rain, Deep Purple. The colour purple has become quite popular with you guys, hasn't it? Tell me about Purple Day. Or Purple, what's it called again? Purple
Light Up.
Purple Light Up. Tell me about Purple Light Up. Says to the lady in the studio, has lovely purple hair on today as well.
Okay, Purple Light Up was it's a group called Purple. I'm going to read this. Purple Light Up is a global movement that celebrates and draws attention to the economic contribution of 386 million disabled employees around the world. Purple Space, the networking hub for disabled employees, leads this movement, a mark of respect to the UN International Day of Persons with Disabilities, held annually on the 3rd of December.
So tell me what is going to be happening down here in sunny Bournemouth. Well, not quite so sunny this morning.
So we've told everyone if they can wear a bit of purple.
Right.
So I've got a purple wig on.
Yes.
Just to be
I could see that. Very nice as well.
So it's really about people showing their alliance with us, really.
Yep.
And the easiest way for the people to do that is to wear something purple. If in various bits of the world you'll see things like big buildings lit up purple for the day, purple food.
Purple food.
But it's really about just raising awareness, as I said, of people who are living and working with disability and long-term conditions in the organisation, and celebrating that, and as I said, showing alliance.
And what is the format of the day? I mean, are you going to be sort of setting yourselves up in the foyer of the Royal Bournemouth Hospital and anything like that, or is it something which you're doing sort of like on the intranet and that sort of thing?
Yeah. So obviously, because of the pandemic that's still with us, we can't do a very public event that we had planned. So on the day, because it's a global movement, there are basically 24 hours of webinars that anybody can join via the Purple Space website. But what we're doing here, we've got lots of purple things around the trust. So we're actually going to raise a purple flag by the lake and on the pool site as well for the day, and we've got lots of purple pens and purple badges and things that people can come and collect from us. However, we are going to be doing this all virtually at the moment, so if people want anything, they need to let us know.
Right.
And we've got that. Unfortunately, we had planned to be in the foyers of the hospital and at the dome at pool, but we just can't because of the pandemic.
Right.
However, two really, really exciting things that are going to be happening. We've got a lot of what we call lived experiences. So people that have been living with disability or long-term health conditions have recorded their story.
Oh, right.
So those are all going to be available on our webpage. And the thing that we're most excited about, we've managed to secure 2 nationally recognised, internationally recognised speakers to actually do Teams calls with us. So we've got Dr. Hannah Barham-Brown, who's a GP trainee, who is a wheelchair user. And she supports disabled people in politics, employment, travel, health, education, and she's been now recognised as one of the 100 most influential disabled people in the UK.
Really?
And she's going to be talking to us at 2 o'clock on the 3rd of December.
Okay.
Followed by Dr. Liz O'Riordan, who is an international speaker, broadcaster and award-winning author, and she was a breast surgeon and has had breast cancer twice, and is now unable to work as a surgeon because of the way that the breast cancer has affected her.
Yep.
So she dedicates her time really to talk to people and empower them about living and working with cancer. And she's coming to talk to us as well via a Teams meeting. So we're hoping that as many staff as possible are going to be able to log in and listen to these. But we're going to have the links to them. We're going to record them, and the links are going to be on our webpage as well.
Okay, that's fine. Well, what we'll do is before we finish the interview today, we'll take all the details and we'll publicise them today, and then this will be going out again obviously on the 3rd, so we can make sure that as many people get to hear it as possible. If it wasn't a situation where the pandemic was stopping you doing what you want to do, say in the foyer, what sort of format would that take? Would that just be like a stall covered in purple, obviously, and then you talking to people as they come in? Because this isn't just about, I'm trying to say, this isn't just about, it is about the staff, but there are people out in the community who need to know that this is for the people in the hospital, but it might be something outside the hospital that they could contact if they're struggling as well. Because obviously what you don't really want is every member of the public coming into you with their disabilities and their problems. So it's about awareness, isn't it? That's the essence of the message.
Yeah, very much so. And had the pandemic not have been with us, we would have had stools, purple stools, on all the 3 sites, and we would have been going onto the wards, into the various departments, and raising awareness of, this network is here and it is for staff. We do have to stress that. However, one of the pieces of work that we've done, as Alison mentioned before, is about members of staff who are hard of hearing and who rely on lip reading and have had to wear masks. So because of that, we actually have done a huge piece of work around deaf awareness, and we did online courses where a lot of us learnt sign language.
Really?
So even though we're doing this for our staff, we're actually doing it for our patients as well, because now we have got quite a few people who have got very basic sign language now that could support staff, patients that are also hard of hearing.
Because your people who are working in the organisation, they will go home. They will have experienced what you guys can do for them, and is it possible that they could help other people outside of the organisation, in so much as, this is what these people did for me, that they can say to somebody that if you're suffering, you can't go to these people because they're in the hospital, but try and find an organisation out there that can help you. And my next question to that would be, is there any link between you and any outside bodies?
So I think that I think it's absolutely about raising awareness, and we know that sometimes just planting that little kernel of knowledge in people allows them to ask a question, ask for help, do something that they wouldn't necessarily have done themselves. And if they're working in an organisation that isn't celebrating Purple Light Up, then actually taking that back and saying, actually, is this something that we should do? So this is something that has just spread almost by word of mouth. Clearly we've got social media and the internet which has helped that now, but it has essentially spread by word of mouth and become a global phenomenon. And so we want people to have a bigger awareness of the fact that there are lots of people in the workplace every single day who are living with disability or long-term health conditions, many of which will not be visible to them. And we have to make it better for everybody. We can do our little bit here in the hospital, but hopefully it does give people the confidence to go out and spread that wider.
Are there any other avenues? I mean, it doesn't have to be a disability, of a physical disability or whatever. I mean, I'm thinking LGBTY. Do you cover that as well?
Not in the Probability Network, but we also do have a staff network for LGBTQ. We also have a staff network for BAME, the Black and Asian minorities, and we have a staff network for European members of staff as well. And we also are part of the Armed Forces Covenant.
Okay.
So we've got lots of different networks to support staff.
But they don't necessarily come under the guise of what you're doing, the purple day.
Separate.
It's separate. But again, isn't it really important that people know that support is there, especially in the LGBT community, because there's an awful lot of stigma about that, and that can lead to mental problems. And then affect the work, then surely it does come back to you.
Well,
bit of a vicious circle.
I think what we recognise is that anybody who is perceived as different in any way, however strange a concept that is, I think, to us sitting in this room, but anybody who's perceived as different can potentially experience disadvantage, can experience harassment, can experience discrimination. And the message here is that actually we are all human beings who deserve to be treated equitably and fairly, and to be able to work to the best of our advantage, the best of our capabilities. And that actually, as an organisation, a caring organisation in the NHS, we want to do what we can to make sure that our staff are able to do that, that they are able to come in, they are able to work in an equitable environment where they feel they're treated fairly with the same advantages as everybody else, and that we will make adjustments so that they can be their best selves.
Yeah.
And I think that counts for any group, and you're absolutely right. Anybody who is perceived as different in any way, if they are experience any of those things, it absolutely leads to mental health problems, and they might end up at the door of this network.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a really broad concept for me.
But to know it's there is important.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
the thing. I think, and again, that's the awareness side of it, isn't it? It's making sure that people know that this exists. Let's have another piece of music, and this is one that you've chosen. This is Prince and Purple Rain, of course. we couldn't not play this, and we'll come back and talk some more after that.
Hospital Radio Bedside. This is HRB.
Right, we are back. And we are in conversation today with Alison O'Donnell, Joe Olsen and Diane Potter from the Probability Network. Now, we're talking there, off-air, and we were talking about what you call invisible disabilities. Can we just expand on that a little bit? Because it's easy to say it's invisible because it can't be seen, but what type of illnesses are there? Or disabilities?
I mean, it's really diverse, actually. So it goes from everything from people who are struggling with mental illness, where that may not be visible, but actually some very significant physical illnesses. And Diane was talking about cancer and Crohn's disease, which actually would be in that category. And then some other things that can cause issues at work, like where we talk about neurodiversity, and those are where we've got adults with things like Asperger's or attention deficit disorder who just have a way of thinking that is difficult for people to understand and sometimes brings them into problems. So it's quite a big range from the sort of mental and physical illnesses and things like neurodiversity, which brings people into problems, and all or none of those may be obvious to people round about them.
Yeah, because as you say, I've experienced many friends and relatives with cancer, and you sit there and look at them and you think nothing wrong with you, and that's the point, isn't it? There is, because it's inside and it's deep.
Yeah, I mean, I've had cancer.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago, and I'm fine. I have no evidence of disease now. I'm classified as cancer-free. But what I found out when I was diagnosed with cancer, that a diagnosis of cancer is covered by disability under the Equality Act.
Right.
I didn't know that, but having had it and having been through all the treatments, etc., it impacts on every single aspect of your being. It affects your relationships, it affects your mental health, it affects your physical health, your ability to exercise. It changes your life completely. So being classified as disabled under the Equality Act was a big shock to me. But I think we need to raise awareness of that, because I'm not the only member of this trust that has had cancer.
Yeah.
And I think we need to raise awareness that people are covered and reasonable adjustments can be put in place. And that's for life. It's not just while you have the disease, it's lifelong.
Is it? I mean, you say. I mean, but a lot of people will think if they know they've been diagnosed with cancer, because it's them, they think they're the only one in the world that's got the problem, and it's about sharing the problem as well, isn't it?
Absolutely, and talking about it actually really does help. But trying to keep life normal as well is really important.
Yeah.
And I think this network can really help actually raise awareness of that, and actually raise awareness to managers that if you have got a member of staff that's living with cancer, they might want to be at work because it keeps life normal.
Yeah.
You don't want to be entirely focused on that cancer.
No.
You want to live a normal life, and being at work is such a big part of everybody's day-to-day routine. To have that taken away from you as well So I think we need to support and encourage.
I think routine is one of the finest things going. If you can routine, regardless of what's going on in your life, if you can get routine, then that I find personally that helps.
Yeah, and that was something that was really, really difficult for lots of members of the Pro-Ability Network and lots of people who were in contact with the Pro-Ability Network through the pandemic and lockdown, because there were lots of people where they were clinically very vulnerable, and so therefore they could not come to work. You know, we really did not want them to come to work.
Right.
And for some of them, that meant, you know, for some people that meant they could continue with what they were doing. We could let them work. We could help them to work remotely. But for some others, the job they did, they couldn't do remotely. And so we know that a lot of our staff members who were in that group felt really isolated. But then they had the flip side of that when they were allowed to come back to work, or they were able to come back to work, that they were really frightened. You know, they were frightened about what was going to happen to them. Yeah.
And with our Pro-Ability, during the lockdown, we had a drop-in. So we had like standard once a month network meetings, Pro-Ability network meetings, where people come in on Teams. We'd have a really like a chilled, wasn't agendaed, where people just come and say, how are you? Oh God, yeah, me too. And that me too is really powerful, and you're feeling like you're in a group of people that feel exactly the same way as you, and they understand you. So that's where those teams, and we all said, oh God, we feel really isolated. Yeah, me too. So it's quite a big thing.
Sharing, is a big thing. It's a big thing in life.
Yeah,
let's be honest. I mean, you know, sharing it's all about, you know, and that support network within, you know, a lot of people don't think the network exists outside their work. And they feel very, very vulnerable.
I think that's the power of staff networks generally, not just Pro-Ability, but all of our staff networks are very powerful.
Yeah, okay. So, where do you see the organisation, how after the pandemic, if that ever comes, when we get back to normal, as they keep saying on the television, how do you see this growing? Do you see it growing in a really big way? In so much because you'll be able to do things that you weren't able to do before, so you won't have to be on Teams, you won't have to be that sort of thing. How do you see it, the whole thing developing?
Yeah, I'd like to think that it will grow, and I think events like this, and thank you so much for having us today on the show. Events like this really raise awareness, and let's hope that Purple Light Up on Friday is actually going to encourage more staff to come forward and stand up and be counted. You know, it's we're differently able.
Yes.
You know, we've all got skills. We can be our best selves, and I really hope that this is actually going to encourage more of our staff to come forward and seek the help and support that they need and that we can give. Yeah,
I think it's really important that getting the awareness of the actual organisation out there. I mean, I don't know how you guys go about it, but we find it really difficult. I mean, there are people who've worked in this hospital never knew we existed. And we sit at meetings, we rack our brains, how can we get our name out there? And I think you hit the nail on the head earlier on when you said that you know your badges. If we could get every nurse to wear a badge that says, I listen to Hospital Radio Bedside, we'd love it, because people go, what's that then? And our audience is ever changing, because these in normal situations, people come into hospital, perhaps they're in for 2 days, 3 days. So our turnover of audience, and you grab a patient and you get them on board, and then they're gone home. So, you know, we've got to find a way out, and we're in the same position as yourselves of making sure that people know we're there. Do you have any plans to sort of to how to promote the network apart from the internet? And it's really difficult, and it's a really difficult problem, but it's one problem that organisations like yourselves and ourselves we suffer from that.
Some of it is about having successes, isn't it?
Yeah.
And celebrating the successes, and as people get to know about them, that grows. I think a lot of it is just trying to get people to have the conversation, and you know, we can have posters, we can have screensavers, we can have it on the intranet, we can do all those sorts of things, but it's actually getting people talking about it, because people will hear and then they'll look. And that's really what we want. And I think Teams, it's going to be great to be back doing things face to face. I think we're all sort of missing that human contact. But I think there are some really good things about Teams, and it does mean that you can have those pop-in sessions where people can come for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter where they are in the organisation, they can pop in for 10 minutes and they can go. And I think so. I don't think that'll ever go.
No.
But it's just getting something that works for people. And it's hopefully we'll be on next Friday when there's a bit of purple going on and various other things. People ask, what's that all about?
I think it's about the small teams as well. I think if you go to a big wide team of people and say, you tell me about this, people aren't going to come up. I think I'm doing a couple of presentations to smaller departments, and then you chat really like a laid back chat with people, and they can open up a bit more and just go into smaller areas and stuff like that. So it's a big, like Pebble Space is a big day, but then after that just do the lots of smaller areas.
Well, it's really interesting actually, because last week I had a member of staff coming in from Alcoholics Anonymous, and they were saying the stigma around the meetings that you've seen it on EastEnders where they sit round in a circle and they stand up. Some people find that really difficult in a big situation, in a big meeting, and if you've got a problem, that one-to-one chat is the essence, I think, or the smaller groups. But I think what you need a room which has got a purple door.
That sounds like a very good idea. If you could arrange that for us, Trevor.
So you need to speak to the man in the States and give him a pot of purple paint and tell him to paint the door. It's awareness. If you can relate people to this purple, and not only just for the day, but keep it going for the year.
I think what you said just now is about stigma.
Yeah.
That's what we've got to try and get over for all the networks, not just for Pro-ability. We promote very much diversity and inclusion, and I read a lovely quote just a few days ago that I'm actually going to tweet on Friday, and something about diversity is being invited to the party, but inclusion is being asked to dance.
Right.
And I think that sums it up really nicely.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, so we're coming to the end of our hour, and I've got one more piece of music to play, and it's by the Fun Boy 3 and Bananarama. It ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. There's obviously a message there somewhere, I think. But I'd like to say thank you very much for giving up your Saturday afternoon to come in and speak to us. Can you give us the rundown again, all about Friday, so that people know if they see somebody with purple hair or with some purple on, they know exactly what's happening. So can you give us the rundown again of what's exactly happening?
Okay, so Purple Light Up is a global movement basically celebrating and drawing attention to the contribution that disabled employees around the world make to the workplace.
Right.
And that's what we're celebrating on Friday, and thank you.
Yeah, brilliant.
And thank you for having us today. It's been great fun.
Yeah,
Loved
good.
it.
I'm glad you've enjoyed it. And what I would say is do come back and see us again after the 3rd and tell us how it went.
We'd love to.
Get some results and some feedback. And if there's anything that you're doing that you need publicity for, always email the radio station. We are here to serve the hospital. Every aspect of the hospital, it doesn't matter what it is. If you're doing something, or you've got a special day organised, or you're doing a parachute jump, or that's a good idea, a purple parachute jump.
That's definitely not.
Don't quote us.
With purple, and you come down with purple smoke coming out your heels.
Actually, maybe some of the other network leads would like to come and talk to you. I'm sure that would be really. Yeah.
Well, we always welcome anybody into the studio, and as I say, we are here. We are broadcasting 24 hours a day, so we're always here for the staff as well, and for the patients. It's just a shame that the staff can't really listen to us because they haven't got access to the radio thing. But we can give you a copy of this interview, and we can look after it. So that was Pro-ability for the Pro-ability Network, and thank you very much indeed to Joe and Alison and Diane for coming in today and giving your time up and thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you very much.
I think it's very much
Thank you.
appreciated by everybody in the hospital.
Your music, your station. This is HRB.